even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. Yes. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
So as each year passed, I tried to inspire someone. So in my 30 some odd years, I'm hoping that I inspired someone every year. Yeah, the people that inspired me the most, first of all, my parents. My second inspiration was a sixth grade teacher, and his name was Dale Waubillig. And Mr. Waubillig came to me one day and he said, "Ken, I want you to do a Black history lesson with the class." And I said to Mr. Waubillig, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I've never had a Black history class. I don't know a lot about my culture. And he guaranteed me that it would be okay. So he asked me, do your parents have any magazines at home? And I said, yeah. He says, well, are they African-American related? And I said, yeah, they buy Jet and Ebony, and the reason they buy them is to keep us connected. Well, when we met after school, I walked in with my 2 bags, and he walked in with double what I had, and they were Ebony and Jets. And I remember thinking, what is this white man doing reading Ebony and Jets? Especially in 1969, there was such a division of race. And he said, well, tomorrow meet me in my room right after school, 3:30, and we're going to start a project. And the project was to make a collage of famous African Americans, a 4-sided collage, a refrigerator box, a 6-foot refrigerator box. And then he started to teach me about all these famous African Americans. He would tell me about Martin Luther King and what his movement was about and how he had a dream. He told me about George Washington Carver and what he did with a peanut. He told me about Benjamin Banneker. He told me about the first stoplight in Washington, D.C. was a black man. And every day, I started to feel some pride because I didn't have a lot of pride growing up. I didn't have a lot of teachers telling me that I could do whatever I wanted to do and be whatever I wanted to be. And so Mr. Waubillig, every day, built something in me, built a fire in me that lasts to this day. And I finally made it to school that day. 10 o'clock rolled around. Mr. Waubillig said to me, Ken, are you ready to present to the class? And man, was I nervous because I didn't think they would want to listen to what I had to say. Well, what was supposed to be a 30-minute presentation turned into an hour and a half as the kids pointed to all the various figures on the box saying, well, who's that? Who is that? What did they do? And after I got done with this presentation, my classmates gave me a standing ovation. And I thought, well, where's Oprah when you need her? So they gave me a standing ovation, and Mr. Waubillig came to me after, and he said, you know what, you did such a great job. I want you to do it for the entire school. And then Mr. Waubillig said, you know what, we're taking this on the road. So in 1969, we went from Ogden to Provo with this box and me doing these presentations for an entire student body. And some of the places that we were walking into, the only thing black in there was the blackboard, other than me. And I remember saying to Mr. Waubillig in particular in Provo, I said, Mr. Waubillig, can I come in here? Is it okay? And he assured me that nothing was going to happen and everything was going to be okay. Because it was 1969. And I went in and I would do these presentations and I would get a standing ovation. I was home in about 85 one summer, right in there, about when Oprah Winfrey started, right in that time frame. And she had a show on about teachers, inspirational teachers. And I remember thinking, I got to get a hold of Mr. Waubillig. So I turned to the business section and there it was, Granger Waubillig. I just remembered his son's name. How can you forget that name? It said attorney at law, so I called him up. I didn't know what I was going to say. I called him. He answers the phone, Granger Waubillig. And I said, is Dale Waubillig your dad? He said, you don't know me, My name is Ken Hopkins, and if Del Wallbillig's your dad, I think I had him in 6th grade. He said, well, yeah, that's my father. And I said, well, Mr. Wallbillig, he was my 6th grade teacher, and he did something for me that no one had ever done. He taught me about my culture, and I want to let him know that I became a teacher, and it was because of him. And he said, well, my dad moved to California. I said, well, that's okay. I have long distance. I can call. And then he told me what I really didn't want to hear. He told me that Mr. Wallbillig had died 2 years prior. That was difficult for me because the man that had been an inspiration to me, I never took the time to tell him thank you. I never let him know what he had created in me. He had created a passion to give back, a passion to teach, a passion to be up in front of people. He had created a passion and inspired me beyond what he knew. And so from that day forward, I decided I was going to take that as my mission. Particularly in 1987, I had a young man that was an African-American student that didn't know that he had the math skills to go to college. And I inspired him to go to college. Matter of fact, I told him to go to Utah State. Well, he went to Utah State and graduated. Became a history teacher, moved to California. I didn't know that. Until one day I'm teaching at Hunter High School. He walks into the building, they page me down to the office, and I walk in and I see this young man, and I turned around and I said, Rod. He said, Mr. Hopkins, I've been looking for you. Every time I come back, I look for you. And I said, what do you mean you look for me? He said, you know, you told me to go to Utah State. I said, yeah, I remember that. And I remember you going to Utah State. He said, well, I went there and I graduated in education. I became a teacher. And it's because of you. You gave me that inspiration. And I said, Rod, you're not going to understand this. And I looked up into the sky and I pointed up to Mr. Wallbillig and I said, Mr. Wallbillig, I finally paid you back. My name is Ken Hopkins. I was inspired. I seek to inspire. I am Granger.